Scene: Thornton Beach, 10:30 p.m. The only sounds are the gentle rhythmic sighs of the coral sea lapping the sand, the whisper of the tropical breeze through the Daintree canopy, and the happy, triumphant laughter of two best friends. It was the scream, the primal, visceral sound that tears through the fabric of reality, the sound of life being brutally, instantaneously extinguished. This was not a sound you forget. This was the sound of sheer, unadulterated terror. The dark water just seconds before a perfect, shimmering canvas reflecting 1,000,000 Australian stars exploded. It became a violent, chaotic vortex. Foam, thick and terrifyingly dark, churned and spat into the warm, humid air. Leanne Mitchell felt the absolute, unyielding tension. The link between her arm and her best friend's was stretched past its breaking point. It was a human bond against an ancient force. They had been laughing, victorious, wading through cool, waist-deep freedom. In the blink of an eye, an overwhelming, monstrous power had snatched her friend away, snatched her into the black depths. Cindy Waldron was gone, vanished, pulled down, dragged under by a massive, unseen executioner she never, ever saw coming. Leanne jammed her feet into the yielding, wet sand, pulling back with a desperate, animalistic strength. She screamed Cindy's name, a meaningless sound against the roar of the event. She felt a horrifying, wet nudge. A massive, cold, scaly presence brushed past her leg. An impossible thickness. It was a silent, terrifying declaration of ownership. She fought for her friend. She fought the invisible fiend in the water. But the beast was simply too large, too strong, too fast. The water suddenly, sickeningly, fell silent. The violent thrashing ceased. The laughter, the sheer joy, the vibrant life, all replaced by a single, tearing, ragged gasp from the survivor. Leanne stood frozen, utterly alone, stranded knee-deep in water that now felt like a living cold horror. The sand beneath her feet had turned to mud. Her clothes clung to her like a shroud. In the dark, star-dusted shallows of Thornton Beach, a beautiful, hard-won celebration had just been violently consumed. This was the crushing climax. This was the end. But to truly comprehend this nightmare, to grasp why this remote spot on this particular night became the final stage, we must reverse the film. We must go back. We must find the single, seemingly small decision, the one final, celebratory impulse that sealed Cindy Waldron's fate forever. We must find the genesis of the tragedy. The unthinkable flash-forward rewind. Just 96 hours later. The atmosphere is not the beach's gentle breeze, but the cold, heavy dread of a riverside ambush. A massive, hulking, living nightmare is slowly, laboriously hauled onto the muddy bank of Cooper Creek. It is not just large. It is titanic. 4.3 meters of prehistoric cold-blooded muscle and an armor of dense scales. A giant saltwater crocodile. This isn't speculation. This isn't a theory. This is the devastating, sickening confirmation they had been dreading. This creature is the absolute truth. The police and park rangers classify it clinically as the target animal. They know its guilt is certain. But the question ripping across Queensland is, how did they know? And what proof could be so concrete? We flash back just 2 hours before the attack. The moment of pure, unsuspecting bliss. Cindy is radiant. Her eyes sparkle. She's a photographer, and she captures the moment. She posts a final, innocent, joyous picture online. The famous Daintree sunset, a riot of orange and purple, blazes behind her. Her simple caption, a final epitaph. I'm on the beach. It's a lovely place. I'm having a ball. She signed her own death warrant with that digital footprint. A final public declaration of a joy about to be snatched away. She was entirely unaware of the cosmic, ancient irony. Hours later, long after the moon has risen and the tourist crowds have vanished, the search and rescue helicopter slices the air. Its thermal camera sweeps the inky black surface, searching desperately for the warmth of a missing human body, a heat signature that will never resolve. Instead, the camera catches something small, pitiful, and tragically conclusive lying at the high tide line. A single bright blue foam flip-flop, Cindy's shoe. a forgotten accessory that suddenly feels like an archaeological artifact. This entire catastrophe defies all rational belief. This is Australia. The Daintree is the very epicenter of the croc territory. The entire coastline is plastered with stark, unambiguous warning signs, yellow diamonds screaming of danger. Every local knows the undeniable, unbreakable rule. Do not enter the water, especially, absolutely, at night. So why? On the highest peak of her emotional life, on the night of her greatest victory, did Cindy Waldron choose to ignore every single biological and governmental warning and make the one final, impulsive decision that would cost her life? The truth is colder, the reality is harder, and it all started with the most powerful, most beautiful motive: friendship, the unbreakable bond. Meet Cindy Waldron. She was far more than just a statistic. She was a 46-year-old photographer, a creative spirit from New South Wales, carrying the distant legacy of her New Zealand birthplace. A woman with an enormous, overflowing heart, known for her easy compassion and her ability to make the mundane feel magical. Her sister, Anna Lee, her father, Patrick, all echoed the same word: impulsive. She was the friend who dared, the one who embraced the unexpected. Her father would later utter the heartbreaking, resigned summary: what she did there was a crazy thing, absolutely crazy, but that was her. And the reason for this trip? The motive that drove them to this remote, beautiful corner of the world? It was a pilgrimage. It was a victory lap. Her best friend, Leanne Mitchell, had just battled and defeated the ultimate modern monster: cancer. They had survived the impossible. This trip to the stunning, treacherous Daintree National Park wasn't just a holiday itinerary filler. It was an affirmation of life. A joyous, hard-earned ritual of rebirth. They thought they had seen the worst the world could throw at them, and had walked away, triumphant. Imagine the sheer emotional altitude: two lifelong friends, walking a path paved with shared tears and shared joy, feeling utterly invincible, celebrating life itself. They believed the universe owed them this moment. That night, beneath the canopy of a billion brilliant stars, they weren't just walking across a beach. They were stepping onto a stage of freedom. They kicked off their shoes, felt the cool, clean sand, and decided to capture the feeling, the triumph, in a moment that transcended pictures. A simple, shared paddle, just waist-deep, just for a single perfect minute. We need to be here. Her father's sentiment resonated, articulating that raw, profound need to physically mark the end of suffering. They were there to feel alive, to feel the water wash away the past. But Cindy didn't know that the ancient, cold, indifferent monster was already holding its breath, waiting motionless just beyond the light. She made one final, impulsive, heart-driven choice that would silence her camera and her spirit forever. They were convinced that the worst storm of their lives had finally passed. They had absolutely no idea that the real, final, and lethal horror was only just arriving. The black veil of night. The Daintree Rainforest is a paradox. It is the oldest rainforest on Earth. A place of breathtaking, vibrant life and equally immense silent death. It is paradise wearing a black veil of danger. Its undisputed reigning monarch is the saltwater crocodile, a predator so perfectly evolved it hasn't needed to change in millions of years. The exact spot, Thornton Beach, sits precariously close to the mouth of the infamous Cooper Creek. This creek is a known, thriving metropolis for these giant reptiles. Tourists literally pay fortunes to ride boats just to catch a glimpse of the deadly predators that call this place home. But Cindy and Leanne approached the water at 10:30 at night. In the absolute pitch-black darkness that is the crocodile's ultimate hunting cloak, the water was seductively warm, inviting. It was only waist-deep, a temptation so simple it felt harmless, just a brief, cooling dip, a quick, symbolic immersion. Perhaps again they simply didn't process the dozens of stark yellow and red warning signs. Perhaps in their overwhelming euphoria, they momentarily suspended disbelief. What they didn't know is the precise hunting physics of the saltwater crocodile. The target animal was 4.3 meters long, a silent, black-scaled torpedo. In the pitch-black tidal water, he was literally an invisible extension of the environment. The darkness was his most lethal weapon. He wasn't searching for prey. He was simply existing, passively, a perfect, buoyant killing machine, drifting from the creek mouth toward the shore. He was waiting for any ripple, any scent, any misplaced footstep. And now, two silhouettes have stumbled, laughing and celebrating, directly into his meticulously calculated kill zone. The tide was perfect. The water depth was ideal for an explosive final strike. The entire contact time, from the first sensation of water on their skin to the final fatal action, would be less than 60 seconds. And then, Leanne felt it. Not the tearing of teeth yet, not the thrash, but the silent, subtle, yet absolutely terrifying first contact. The survivor would later tell police with chilling clarity. "We felt a nudge." That nudge was the crocodile's massive snout, a casual check, a calculation, confirming the size, confirming the soft texture of the prey. It was the moment the ancient reptile decided, dinner has arrived. The scream that erupted seconds later was the sound of a dream dissolving into reality. But the deepest, most sickening horror, the part of the story that proves the monster was far more cunning than anyone guessed, was still yet to be fully uncovered. The unstoppable force, escalation, search, and final truth, 10+ minutes and beyond. The nudge instantly transitioned into an explosion of chaotic power. The giant reptile's jaws, built for crushing bone and holding tight, clamped down. Cindy was pulled under with the crocodile's signature. Terrifying high-speed spin. The death roll. Leanne, driven by a desperate, tearing love, latched onto her friend. She fought with an animalistic fury she didn't know she possessed. She fought the impossible. But the immense rotational force of the 14-foot reptile, a force that evolved over millennia to subdue much larger prey, was simply overwhelming. Leanne felt her friend's body wrenched away, violently dragged into the suffocating, silent blackness of the ocean. The raw, rough scrape of scales she felt on her own arm was not a bite, but the body of the ancient beast brushing past her as it claimed its prize. Leanne was left utterly alone, saturated, hyperventilating, the triumph of survival replaced by the absolute terror of loss. She scrambled back onto the dry sand, running toward the distant lights of the nearby resort, screaming Cindy's name, screaming the terrifying truth. A croc took her, a crocodile took her. The search was immediate. Every available resource was mobilized. Helicopters, thermal imaging equipment, police boats, and dedicated search crews descended upon the shoreline and the mangrove-choked maze of Cooper Creek. They searched for hours. They searched for days. They found nothing. The crocodile is nature's perfect cleaner. It leaves no trace. The national reaction was immediate, harsh, and divisive. Local MP Warren Ench, the voice of tropical Queensland, was unsparing in his assessment, which became a national flashpoint. "You can't legislate against human stupidity," he declared bluntly. "This is a tragedy, but it was avoidable. If you go in swimming at 10 o'clock at night, you're going to get consumed." His words, while brutal, served as a stark, unforgiving reminder of the region's immutable natural laws. The Daintree is not a resort pool. The crocodile does not observe human law or human celebration. Police and the Department of Environment and Heritage Protection, EHP, immediately began trapping operations. They knew the target. They knew the beast would not have gone far, likely retreating to the brackish calm of the creek mouth to store its meal. They caught one first, a smaller sub-3-meter crocodile. Its gut contents were inconclusive. The desperate hunt continued. The emotional and political pressure was immense. They knew the true animal was still lurking, a massive hidden horror just beneath the surface of the water. They desperately needed to search. Meanwhile, Cindy's family, her father Patrick and sister Anna Lee, endured the agonizing flight from New Zealand. They were forced to wait, miles from the spot where Cindy vanished, clinging to the smallest thread of hope. Patrick, overwhelmed with grief, revealed the heartbreaking complexity of his daughter's spirit, her impulsive nature, but offered a shocking, almost impossible degree of grace. He told reporters that, despite the horror, he did not want the crocodile harmed. He stated he understood it was merely an animal, fulfilling its nature, a statement of profound existential acceptance that stunned a nation demanding vengeance. This brings us to the most decisive, most sickening piece of the investigation. 4 agonizing days after the attack, the trap finally yielded the truth: the massive 4.3-meter estuarine croc. He was secured, tranquilized, and following established protocol for any animal confirmed to have attacked a human, euthanized. The giant reptile was then transported to a forensic facility in Cairns for the final, crucial, horrifying examination. The goal was simple, yet utterly devastating for the family: provide definitive confirmation, conclude the horror. Inside the enormous, cold, and ancient stomach of the apex predator, the authorities found human remains. The forensic evidence was conclusive. The search for Cindy Waldron was officially, definitively, and tragically closed. The celebration had culminated in the ultimate disaster. The monster was caught, but the final, most powerful message came from Cindy's family. Her sister, Anna Lee, visited the beach, delivering the family's final, heartbreaking verdict, a sentiment that echoed across the globe. One of the first things my mother said was, "It's not the crocodile's fault, that's his environment." It was a statement of acceptance, a recognition that no human law, no human sentiment, supersedes the harsh, indifferent laws of nature in the Daintree. The tragedy of Cindy Waldron is a chilling, unforgettable testament to the raw, untamed power that still exists in the world. It is a story about the fragility of human joy, the power of a single, impulsive decision, and the terrifying, non-negotiable cost of entering a domain where you are not the predator, but the prey. They thought they were toasting their greatest survival story. They didn't know they were walking toward their most brutal, unskippable, and final tragedy. The price of one beautiful, spontaneous paddle was a life that ended in the jaws of an ancient king.